today I will be covering this topic of the a priori algorithm, which is used in association rule mining. Now, just to give you an overview of the method, this is a technique which is used to find hidden associations, frequent item sets, and correlations in data. Okay? And the most popular application of the a priori algorithm is a technique called as the market basket analysis. So you might have heard about this technique. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this technique called market basket analysis. How we arrive at the results of market basket analysis is by applying this a priori algorithm. In fact, I believe R has a package named A rules, short for association rules, and the working mechanism of that A rules package is basically this algorithm. So this is how it works. So you take the transaction data. Now, transaction data is something different from your normal data frame. So your normal data frame, usually it's represented in the form of rows and columns. So your normal data frame is represented in the form of rows and columns, whereas transaction data is something like each row of the data has represents one particular transaction. Okay, and against that transaction, whatever items were involved in that transaction will be grouped together. Okay, so I have a screenshot of what it sort of looks like. So that is how. So that is the starting point for the association rule mining. So you need to use transaction data, and if your data is, if you take it from a CSV file, you probably read it as a data frame by default. If you use R or Python, that has to be transformed into a transactions data type. And then on that transaction data, you apply this a priori algorithm. You generate a list of rules which you call as association rules, and from these rules you extract insights. So these insights could be something like people who bought milk are very likely to buy bread as well. Okay, so there's an association between these two products, milk and bread, right? So this is the sort of insights that you get from the association rule mining. So in real time, this is where it's most of the time the association rule mining is applied. So when you purchase something from Amazon or Flipkart, after you look at the product details and everything, you just scroll down, you just get this section, right, where it says frequently bought together, 3 items. And similarly, customers who bought this item also bought something else. So how do they come up with these recommendations? This is by mining that transactions of customers. So what products were purchased together most often. So they mine this, and then there are certain measures that they use. There's a measure called as support, there's a measure called as confidence. So based on these measures, they filter out all unwanted associations, and they bring out only the most important or the most significant associations, and that is what you see on the Amazon or Flipkart website. When you purchase something, that is what the recommendation that you get. And then there is another thing called as planogram. I'm not sure whether you are familiar with the term. So this planogram is something like it's a diagram which the retail store people create before stacking products on shelves. Okay. So this is basically used to plan what product be stocked or placed in what shelf. So what items should be placed in the top shelf, what items should be placed in the shelf before that, and so on. Okay, and even within a particular shelf, what should be the arrangement of the different products. So that is what the planogram is used for. So the idea behind the association rule for the planogram is that the association rule will tell you what products are being purchased together frequently, and you can use that data and you can make certain inferences and then accordingly group the products together. So this is how you apply the results of association rule mining or the a priori algorithm in real time. Any questions here until now? Okay, let me go to the next slide. So before we get into the technique of how the algorithm actually works, there is a little bit of a terminology involved in this. So just consider, for example, this particular rule. Okay, so I'm saying customers who bought milk are likely to buy butter. Okay, or customers who bought milk also bought butter. So this is a sample association rule that I'm taking. Now imagine that there are a total of 100 customers. So out of those 100 customers, 10 customers bought milk, 8 customers bought butter, and 6 customers bought both milk and butter. Okay. Now there is something called as an item set in association rule mining. This item set is nothing but a collection of k items, okay, or n items. So k is basically the number of items in that particular set or group. Okay. So 2 item set would be, in this example, it will consist of milk and butter. So this is how the item set is represented. So it's usually represented between the flower parenthesis, and the k items are represented within this space. So 2 item sets would be milk, comma butter. If there is a 3 item set, then it will be milk, comma butter, comma something else, whatever is there in the data set. So the item set is the first term that we deal with. And then there is a metric called as support. So support is represented as the probability of A union B. That is to say that how many people bought milk and butter out of the total number of customers. So how does this A union B come? So this comes from the particular association rule that we are talking about. So in my rule, I am saying that customers who bought milk also bought butter, right? So A is milk and B is butter. So A union B is milk union butter, or in other words, customers who bought milk as well as butter. So that is nothing but 6. That number 6 divided by the total number of customers, 6 by 100. So that is what you call as support. 6 by 100 is 6%. So the support for this particular association rule in the data is 6%, which is to say that in 6 instances out of 100, this particular association rule has been proven true. That is what this means. The next measure that we have is something called as confidence. So confidence is represented as probability of B given A. So this is what you call as a conditional probability. Okay. So this is to say how many people, of the people who bought milk, how many of them also bought butter, or how many people bought butter who have also bought milk. So like that, if you say, the measure comes out to be 6 divided by 10, because 6 people bought both milk and butter, right? But 6 out of how many people also bought milk? So B given A. So that is 6 divided by 10. So that is what you call as confidence. And then there is something called as frequent item set. So this is nothing but the item set which meets a minimum support count. So here our particular item set is milk and butter, right? So this has a support of 6%. So like this, there could be, so when you apply this a priori algorithm on a real-time data set, there will be many item sets, and those item sets which have a minimum, which are above a minimum threshold value of the support, that you call as the frequent item sets. Any questions here on the terminology?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Is it not the normal union? Because if we take a union of the set A union B, then the number should be 10 plus 8 minus 6, because it can either be milk or either be butter.
So it's here how you do it is, so you just look at what association rule you have, and you just combine the items in that particular rule, and how many, you just calculate the number of transactions which have involved all those items in that particular rule. That is how you do it.
Okay, understood.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to the next one. So this is how the transaction data looks like. So first column would be the transaction ID, which will uniquely identify every transaction in the data, and the next column will be the items present in that particular transaction, all grouped into one row. So each transaction, for each transaction there will be only one row in the data set, and against the transaction ID, the items involved in that transaction will be grouped together. So here we are saying T100 has these three items, I1, I2 and I5. T200 has these two items, I2, I4. T300 has I2, I3 and so on. So this is how the transaction data looks like. So even in case your data set that you want to use for association rule mining is in the normal format, just ensure that before you apply the algorithm, ensure that you transform the data into this transactions format. So once you have the data set in the transaction format, what you do is you generate what you call as a candidate item sets. Okay, and this candidate item set is a generation is an iterative process. Okay, so you first generate item sets with one item, then you generate item sets with two items, then you generate item sets with three items and so on. Okay, so I will take you through this step by step. So in the first step, what we do is this is your raw transactions data. Okay, and first you generate one item set. Okay, so which is to say that you take each item involved in all the transactions individually, and against each of those items you mark how many times has that item occurred in the transactions, or in how many transactions is that particular item present. So for example, if you take I1, right? So I1 is present in T100, T400, 500, 700, 800 and 900. So it is present in 6 transactions. So that is what you say as support count is equal to 6. Similarly, I2, if you see, it's present in here 1, this is the second one, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. So I2 is present in 7 transactions. So that is what you say. Item set I2 has a support count of 7, and similarly for each of the other items. Okay, and you have a condition where you specify I will take only those item sets which have a minimum support count of 2. So every statistical software package that is in use today has a parameter which allows you to specify the minimum threshold value for this support. Okay, so there. The purpose of specifying this particular value is that typically when you deal with very large data sets, if you don't specify this minimum threshold for the support, then it is likely that you will get nonsensical rules or pretty much useless rules. So we need only the significant or the important rules which really make a difference when it comes to insights, right? So that is why you have a filter or a threshold value for the support count. So first step, you generate item sets with one item in each set, and against that item you calculate the number of occurrences in the data, and from here you remove those instances which do not satisfy this minimum support count criteria, and from here if you see there is the minimum value itself is 2, so everything that you see here in the top table will be present in the filtered list also. So that you call this as L1. This is the first step. Next, what you do is you form something like a cross join of this L1 that you obtained in the previous step. Okay, so what you do is you form a table with L1 cross L1, and this will be 2 item sets. So I told you this is an iterative process, right? So in the first step you form 1 item sets, and in the second step you form 2 item sets, that is sets consisting of 2 items each. So L1 cross L1 is nothing but, see, there are 5 items here, and out of these 5 items, how many combinations can you have consisting of 2 items each? So that is nothing but 5C2, right? So which is like 5 into 4 by 1 into 2, that is 10. So there will be 10 combinations of 2 items each. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 combinations of 2 items each. And for each of these combinations, you calculate the number of occurrences or the support. So how do you do that? Just for reference, I'll just show you. This is the raw data that we have. Yeah. So if you see here, I1 and I2 have put a support count of 4, which is to say that out of these 9 transactions, I1 and I2 together have occurred in 4 transactions. So they have occurred in T100, T400, T800 and T900. So out of these 9 transactions, 4 transactions have I1 and I2. Similarly for I1 and I3, if you see, they're present in T300, sorry, T500, T700, 800 and 900. So again, the support count is 4. But I1 and I4, if you see, it is present only in T400. So that is the only transaction in which it is present. Therefore, the support count for the item set of I1, I4 is 1. Okay. So similarly for each of the other combinations as well. And then you do something called as a pruning, which is to say that you remove all those item sets which do not satisfy that minimum support count criteria. So we said that the minimum support count has to be 2, right? So anything less than 2, any support count that is less than 2, you remove them. So that is what I have marked in red. And after doing this filtration, what you do is you arrive at a refined or a filtered item set which satisfies all your criteria. You call this set as L2. Okay. And first step what we did was we formed single item sets. Second step we formed double item sets. Third step we will form triple item sets, and that triple item sets will be a cross join of this L2 cross L2. So that is what we are saying. Form 3 item sets with L2 cross L2. So if you just do a cross join of this on the same thing, so first will be I1 I2 cross I1 I3. So when you cross these two, you will get I1, I2, I3. Okay? So that is what you see here, I1, I2, I3, which is present in 2 transactions. And second step, what you do is I1, I2 cross I1, I5, you will get I1, I2, I5. That is the second item set that you have here. Okay. And what is the support count? That is again, so I1, I2, I3 together are present in 2 transactions out of 9. Which 2 are they? If you see here, it is T800 and T900. So 2 out of 9 transactions have I1, I2, I3. Similarly, if you see I1, I2 and I5, it's present in T100 and T800. So again 2 transactions. So after you form this basic table, again you perform the pruning operation where you remove all those item sets which do not satisfy that minimum support count criteria. So if you do that pruning, you will get only these 2 rows or these 2 sets, I1, I2, I3 and I1, I2, I5, each of which has a support count of 2. So you call this as L3. Okay. So from 1 item set we went to 2 item sets, and then from here we went to 3 item sets. So obviously the next step is to form 4 item sets. So that is what you see here. You have 2 sets like I1, I2, I3 and I1, I2, I5. So when you cross these 2, what you get is I1, I2, I3 and I5. Okay, which is to say L3 cross L3, 4 item sets. But if you look at the transactions data, raw data that we have here, the number of transactions containing these 3 items, I2, I3, I5, is null. Oh, sorry, so there is only one transaction which has all these 4 items, I1, I2, I3, I5, which is this T800. Okay, and this T800, since it is only one transaction, it does not satisfy that minimum support criteria of 2. So therefore, we remove this item set. And if you remove this set, then your item set becomes empty, and this is where you stop your iterations. Any questions here on how we perform these iterations of the a priori algorithm? Okay, so let me go to the last step. So now that you have stopped the iteration in the 4th step, what are the item sets that you have until that step? So you have 2 sets, right? So one is I1, I2, I3, and the other is I1, I2 and I5, right? So whatever association rule that you need to form, you will form using these 2 sets. Okay. So for example, let us just consider this particular set I1, I2, I5. Okay. And you are saying that the minimum confidence should be 70%. Okay. So using this item set of I1, I2, I5, you need to form association rules. How do you do that? It is nothing but different combinations of these 3 items. So first rule what I am saying is, people who have purchased I1 and I2 also have purchased I5. People who have purchased I1 and I5 also have purchased I2. Like this, I have formed a list of rules. Okay, and for each rule, I am calculating this measure called as confidence. Okay, and I will extract only those rules which satisfy this minimum confidence criteria of 70%, or I will extract only those rules for which the confidence value is greater than 70%. Okay, so how do I calculate this confidence? Let's look at the data again. Yeah. So you see, the first rule, I'm saying people who have purchased I1 and I2 have also purchased I5, right? So how many transactions have the item I5? See, it is there in T100 and T800. Right? Only these two transactions have the value of, have the item I5. So that is what comes in the numerator here, 2. Divided by 4. How many transactions have I1 and I2? So that is 4 transactions, that is T100, 400, 800 and 900. So out of all those transactions which have I1 and I2, how many of them also have I5? That is 2 transactions. So that is, so confidence will be 2 divided by 4, that is 50%. Okay. Similarly, if you see the next rule, I1, I5. So people who have purchased I1 and I5 have also purchased I2. Okay. So how many people have purchased I2? That if you see, how many people have purchased I1 and I5? I think that is T100 and T800. So out of those people who have purchased I1 and I5, how many have also purchased I2? So that is, both those transactions have I2 also. 100 and 800, if you see, both those transactions have I2. So the confidence will be 2 divided by 2, that is 100%. So this is how you form association rules from your item sets, and for each association rule, you calculate this confidence, and you remove those rules which do not satisfy this minimum confidence criteria, and thereby you get your final list of rules. Okay. So the final list of rules from this data set will be these 3 rules that you have here. So first, I'm saying people who have purchased I1 and I5 have also purchased I2. People who have purchased I2 and I5 have also purchased I1. People who have purchased I5 have also purchased I1 and I2. So this is how the a priori algorithm works for generating the association rules. So that is what I had for today.